Okay, it's NWJ Styles with another tutorial. This one's going to be short. It's simple. It's a long to short transformation. This particular client is not getting any designs, no skin fades, just getting low and dark and a taper. She didn't really know that in the beginning, so at first she just said she wants to cut the straight out. So that's what you see me doing here. I shampooed the hair so I could see which hair is still going to be straight. And I just, cut what was straight. No rhyme or reason. Just look for straight hair and cut it out. And then she realized she wanted all the pink out, so I just took a number 3 against the grain and went over it. And that pretty much got all the colors out. There's going to be some specks of color just because some color takes more deeply into the root, and that's fine. She didn't want to go any lower than this. So I neatened it up by going with a 2 with the grain, and then I did a taper on the back. So because I've never done a taper on this client before, and I wanted to learn her hair density, I started with a longer guard, the 1 open, and that's my first guideline. I'm using it pretty high, and then I'm gonna fade that out into the 3, and then I'll actually start my taper with the bald line towards the bottom of the nape. So now I'm going up with a 1.5 open, and I'm creating my second guideline. And that's pretty much blending into it. I'm just making sure I'm going in all the directions to make sure I get against the grain in whatever pattern the hair grows. Now I'm putting that 3 back on just to make sure I get everything. Sometimes I do things I know it's not really going to cut hair, but it's just like force of habit. So now I'm starting my actual taper with a bald line, and then I'll blend up from there. Guys, make sure you're checking your mirror to see if that baseline is symmetrical, because that'll determine the rest of your taper. I know you can't see it, but I'm constantly looking over my shoulder into the mirror. So now I put my clipper with no guard open to create my second guideline. And I'm closing it up slowly, like always, to get that bottom line out. Right now I'm throwing my 1 open back on there just to make sure I get an even place to blend into. I still go up about 1 inch. And now I'm going to blend that out with the half guard. First I'm going to have it open, of course. Then I'm going to close it up slightly and then close it up all the way to finally get that line out. You can see I'm turning the clipper a lot because this hair grows in a lot of different directions. So don't be afraid to take your time. I obviously am not. Now I'm throwing that 1.5 guard open back on. And back into a 2. Just to make sure I get everything. I already did a pre-taper pretty much before, so this is just a touch-up. So now I have my 1 guard on, and I'm just laying down the hairs around the ear and the temple, because I'm going to shape that up, and I don't want those hairs curling over the line. Some people do this with a razor comb. I think that's pretty effective from what I've seen. I just don't own one, so I always just put my 1 guard on, and typically I'll close it up and go with the grain around the outline. This is actually just my first lineup. I'm doing this thing now where I do kind of like a first draft of a haircut. So I cut the length the way I want it to, including all the blends, and then I do a lineup without, laboring over it too much. Then I do the shampoo, and I dry the hair in the position I want to dry it in, and then I go over and get any imperfections. I've been hearing jokes online about clients being afraid to wash their hair after their haircut because they don't want their line to go away, that fresh lineup look. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll wash it for you. And now you know that's the way your hair is supposed to be. So again, this is just me kind of marking out where I want my final line to be. Not trying to make a perfect line yet. This client's hair was just pretty long, so it's used to standing up and laying in different ways. So I will have to retrain it to get the look I want. I always just use the last tooth when I go around the ear because it's curved, so I don't need the full blade. If any of you guys that are watching this want to make tutorials, haircut tutorials for yourself, one thing I figured out with this video and the last one I did was to just shoot with manual focus, because a lot of time the hand will get in the way and change the focus, but you want to keep the focus on the hair. So I've been setting up my shot, manual focusing, and then cutting. That way I don't have to go back and forth and I don't miss a lot of shots. So I just washed it. Now I'm combing the hair in the direction that it should be in, and then I'm laying it down with a towel. I never use a hairbrush in the shop because I don't have 30 hairbrushes, and if you use a hairbrush on one client, you cannot use it on the next client immediately after unless it has been cleaned in barbicide or boiled. So always use a comb because I barbicide that after every client. So as you can see, I just put the do-rag on pretty tight and dried the hair. Right now I put a little spritz on and I'm combing the line up in the way I'm going to cut it. So this is the look after the first draft. Now I'm going to touch each line again. As you can see, it just gets a little tighter, a little bit more defined. And because I just washed it, you know this is the line that you'll be wearing for the next couple days. It's not going to move. And this client didn't want a hard shape up in the front. So typically with my clients that, you know, identify as, more feminine presenting, I want to keep a softer lineup. So I'll just do the hook and pretty much leave it at that. Right now I'm just tapping any stubble that was left over just to give the lineup a little longer life. And now I'm just trimming any hairs that are standing up. Nothing fancy here, just a regular basic haircut, but even with something like this, you labor over it because you want it to still give the same effect. So this is the final look. She's happy with it. I'm happy with it. I think it looks great. That's what she came in with. And here we are. All right, well, you already know. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Any questions, I'll get right back to you. And I appreciate you watching. If you watch the whole thing, I appreciate it. Thank you.